Hi, this is Roger Conrad. I'm editor of Canadian Edge. And what I want to talk to you about today is the possibility of another Canadian election this autumn. Now, ever since this Jim Flaherty and Stephen Harper announced that Canadian Trust would begin to be taxed beginning January 1, 2011, taxed as corporations, and they announced that back Halloween 2006, so it's been a while. The great hope, I think, of U.S. investors has been that we'd see some sort of turnover of this. Either the conservatives would reconsider and extend the trust tax status, or the Liberal Party, which had remained a champion of income trust and had in fact turned that into a campaign issue and as a betrayal of trust and tried to capitalize on that, whether they would prevail in an election and then, of course, restore income trust tax status. So that's been the great hope of U.S. investors. Since they made this proclamation back in, again, Halloween 2006, our advice has been not to count on it. Our advice has been basically, and this is drawn from conversations with CEOs of various trusts and so forth, as well as people who are involved in the Canadian markets and other relevant areas, are basically that you can't count on an election change. And secondly, that you can't count on politicians from the Liberal Party, again, to follow through on the doing something for trusts going forward. So they've always operated under the assumption that they had 4 more years of favorable tax treatment, and at that point, when they hit January 1, 2011, they would have to make some kind of adjustment to their tax structure, to their corporate structure, and quite possibly to their dividends in order to be able to absorb the new taxation. And as someone said at when this process was first announced, there are 250 different trusts and 250 different potential responses to the tax change, 250 different tax strategies, if you will. And that's certainly how we've seen things play out over the past couple of years as companies have started. Some of the trusts have started to convert early to corporations. Others have remained trusts but have begun to articulate what they might do in 2011. Some of the trusts have cut dividends, reoriented themselves to growth companies, so to speak, made the conversions early. But a growing number of companies are actually now converting and not cutting the distribution. So when this bill was first announced, the Tax Fairness Act, so-called Tax Fairness Act, the market reacted almost immediately and almost immediately began pricing in dividend cuts of as much as 40–50%. So the bad news has been priced in all along. What hasn't been priced in, again, has been the fact that companies can respond individually to the tax and have different strengths, and that many of them can actually convert without cutting dividends. And what also has not been priced in has been the possibility of a turnaround or of a change in the government, a change in the law. So in other words, all the good news has not been priced in, all the bad news has been priced in for some time. What that means to us going forward is this, regards this election. One, if the conservatives win, it's no skin off our nose, it's already priced in, right? There's no risk from that. Second, if the liberals win and if they follow through and they reduce the tax on trusts or they extend their current status for 10 years, anything of this magnitude, we can look forward to a pretty substantial windfall. And three, if none of this happens, if the conservatives win, liberals don't come in, we can still realize a substantial windfall from the companies, from the good businesses that prove to the market that they can hold their dividends even after absorbing corporate taxation. Again, we've seen 8 of these so far, cutless conversions, painless conversions. Each time the price of the affected trust converting to a corporation has soared. And look, we've gotten the uncertainty's gone away, and the dividend cut that's been priced in since the pricing in of the dividend cut that's been there since late November at least 2006, that's gone away. So what's happened? The price is adjusted to reflect the fact that the dividend is holding. And I think we can look forward to a lot more of those situations going forward as companies begin to clarify what they're doing. Certainly oil and gas, if you talk to some of the executives there, as we have, they're saying that basically it's much more important what happens to the price of oil and particularly natural gas, which has really gotten flushed here in the last several months, much more important what happens to the prices of those two key commodities than what sort of tax emerges in the year 2011 and what their ultimate tax burden turns out to be. So again, I think there's tremendous. I think we can realize a windfall. I guess to summarize, we can realize a windfall in these things in 2011. Again, whether there's a change in the government or not. So that's kind of the backdrop, and I think that's how investors should look at this. Certainly, the election is going to provide quite a bit of political theater. It's always fascinating to me to see how Canadian politics and elections shake down, how polls and how a parliamentary system such as theirs really is reflected over time, and how politics is shaped by that. And we cover this extensively in the weekly Maple Leaf Memo, which is the companion to Canadian Edge, and is posted on the site as well as emailed to readers. Cover these subjects intently. We intend to do that as news continues to appear. But again, our focus as investors has to be on the underlying businesses. That's really where we're going to make our money one way or the other. I'll be cheering for, of course, either the Conservatives to recant this policy, which I think is very negative for their market. I think they probably regret the moves they made. I'm no mind reader, but I would assume so. You know, failing that, I'd love to see a liberal victory and a complete overturning of the trust tax. A reduction of the corporate tax rate would also be a favorable development, which the Conservatives have done. So Conservatives certainly haven't been all bad for Canadian businesses. But failing that, again, focusing on the businesses, we're going to get some very nice returns as the 2011 uncertainty goes away. And that's really the bottom line here. That's what we're after. So anyway, that's it for today. Again, we'll be covering these subjects in detail in the Maple Leaf Memo as well as in the regular issue of Canadian Edge. And we'll look forward to chatting with you next time.